Welcome back to the channel. So today I've got the 2023 M340i xDrive. New color for this 3 Series, Brooklyn Gray. So of course, that's the only color you should be getting, I think. Alright, so this is the LCI or Lifecycle Impulse Refresh for the 3 Series. The guise of the M340i. Now, exterior has changed a lot, especially the front and rear and the headlights as well. And we'll talk about the inside once we get there, because I'm sure you all know it's iDrive 8. So up front, new headlights and new halo lights. So now I guess the brow, if you want to think of it that way, is on the upper portion of the headlight rather than below. So that's a big change from previous versions. Also gone is the callback to the E46 3 Series with that little notch in the lower portion in between both the headlights, or in between the two lights on one headlight. So we got the active kidney grille as well. It looks like the kidney grille is slightly larger as well. And the front fascia is a little bit more aggressive as well. A lot more of the intakes here, a lot more of that black sort of look to make it a little bit more aggressive looking. Now talking about this spec, so as you may know, allocations have been hard to gauge on when they're coming. There used to be a very defined process, but right now in the last couple of rounds of allocations, they've come basically in status 112. So if you don't notice them, or don't notice they're there, they flip to 150 real quick, and that's what happened with two of these M340i's. They were in the DAR, basically I think it's the dealer allocation report. I'm not sure if that's correct. But keeps track of all your inventory from order bank all the way through dealer inventory. So it'll drop to on order. And if you don't check the right time of day nowadays, before you know it, bam, in production. And that's what happened here. So we didn't have time or the opportunity to spec two of these M340s, and this is the first one to arrive. But Brooklyn Gray, not a bad exterior color choice. On the side, you got the 791M wheels, the blue M Sport calipers. Now for Brooklyn Gray, I would have gone with red M Sport calipers, and I probably would have stayed away from the black wheels, but they look okay. We'll take a look at the rest of the car. So Brooklyn Gray, out of direct sunlight. The rear end of the car, at least the tail lights look, if not the same, very similar. So you also note that cerium gray is gone. So now you're back to chrome. So the rear diffuser looks a lot more aggressive. There's a lot more blackness to the back end of the car. So again, a fake diffuser, so I don't think they're really functional. So you can hear that sort of grumble here. That's the M Performance exhaust, which is back for the M340i. So we equipped it with that and a few other things. But on the side profile looks the same to me. Not many changes. We also have the floating center caps on this, so I think that's a good addition. I would have gone with 3MQ, the 50th anniversary BMW M emblems. They would have looked good on the M340i, but didn't have the opportunity to do that. Unfortunate. All right, so other thing I've noticed, M-style mirror caps, which show up on the M240, X3 M40i, and X4 M40i. So this is going to make its way across the M Performance lineup. So other thing to note, laser lights no longer available. Unfortunate. They look really, really good, but these new headlights look pretty damn good. All right, so opening up, we have black perforated Sensatech. Now, I would have gone for Tacora Red with Brooklyn Gray, or perhaps even Cognac, but beggars can't be choosers. All right, so stepping in, this is your new iDrive 8 system on the 3 Series G20. So this is what you have in your instrument panel. Obviously, it's going to take some time to get used to. You can see some of the things have changes in terms of locations where they are. So auto holds over here on the lower left-hand side. Your fuel is on the left-hand side, which is basically fairly standard for BMWs. This is what your instrument panel looks like. Now you can change some of the content which appears in here, either through the BC button on this turn stock. Alright, so what you can do is use this hamburger button, and you can change, use the scroll wheel, what content shows up here. So back to the M badge, but a few things you can cycle through on this. And here's your widescreen display for your central information display unit. So it does look like it has a lot more resolution than iDrive 7. It's all touchscreen, so it's very responsive to your touch. And the tile system is still there. It's just a really different layout that, coming from iDrive 7, you probably have to get used to where things are. That's going to be the case with anything that's brand new. So before you used to have car and all the settings would be buried within there. So now you can go to what they call apps. So you can do vehicle-specific apps. And you notice that next to the hazard button, there used to be the intelligent safety features button. So in order to get to that lane departure warning, all the other settings on here, you have to go into driving settings, then driver assistance. And that's where you're going to find that information and how to change it. It's really just about getting used to it, the layout. The same ideas were all there, right? So before, live vehicle would be in the car and vehicle settings and vehicle status, I should say. Now it's live vehicle. That will bring up all the different content. Oops. You go into the system settings, and that's going to be your basically where your settings and general settings in from iDrive 7 are all located. You have your interior lighting, which is buried with, used to be buried in car and settings. But now it's just laid out in a different app style. So basically very familiar to iPhone users or Android users, basically just using apps to get to different things. Now, of course, shortcut buttons are all gone. They are hidden within iDrive. So if you swipe down, see I've already saved one here. This is where you're going to find your presets. The other thing you can do is use the iDrive controller and basically push up. That gets you the same thing. Now you might be asking, well, how do I save things that I'm used to before? Let's go to some Series XM. So if you press and hold anything on that screen, you can add it to shortcuts. In this case, because we're at Series XM, we can save it as a preset or XM favorite. Basically, you add that to the shortcuts, and now at the touch of a button, you can get there. So same thing with like driver assistance. So let's go back into that menu here, and I'll show you how to do that real quick. And then you can basically press and hold and save that to a shortcut. So at the push of a button, you can get to that menu. I shouldn't say button. I should basically touch the screen or using your iDrive controller. So it's pretty easy to use. Just you have to get used to it. That's basically going to be the biggest adaptation I think you guys are going to have. Switch on to iDrive 8. Now, temperature control is obviously on the screen at all times. So here's how you can quickly adjust temperature. You can also use voice commands. For example, you can say, hey BMW, set the temperature to 70 degrees.
I'm setting 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the driver.
See, that's pretty easy. Not as quick, obviously, as before where you had the dial on the center console. So obviously other things that change other than iDrive 8 and your heads-up display, which this card does not have, is the center console area. So the vents are all different. This is all different. And down here, the biggest change is the gear selector. So gone is what you're used to from the 2022 model. Right, so this is very similar to what's in the iX. Now, one thing you don't have is manual shifting with the gear selector, because you can only go down to drive or push down again to sport. You have to use your paddle shifters. I think parking button is now located down here as a button rather than on the gear selector, because obviously it's gone. But that's about it for those. A quick tour of the interior changes. If you have got more questions about iDrive 8, feel free to drop in the comments and we'll see if we can address those. Let's take a look at the Monroney sticker. So, so starting price for the M340i xDrive, $56,850. Metallic paint, $650, Sensec included. This one's got the driver's assistance package for $700. 791M wheels, $600. Deletion of the digital key as well as the hands-free tailgate credits. And that's it. So obviously it's missing Harman Kardon, which is available. So we added a few things on here. So we added the wheel locks for $120. The M Performance exhaust for $2,500. Now, interestingly, the 6-cylinder M Performance exhaust on the 3 Series is less expensive than the 4 Series equivalent. So we'll have that on another tour, I believe on the 430i Grand Coupe, so we'll talk about that when we get there. Floating hubcaps for $165. All told, MSRP for this particular example, $62,400. Again, very, very minimally specced. Missing the premium package, so you're missing a heads-up display, which would have been good to show off with it. So it's probably going to be very similar to what's in the i4iX. But otherwise, the screen looks great. When people say it's sort of tacked on, but I think it was the same as the case in the previous gen, or excuse me, previous model year, with that screen tacked on. But it looks pretty good. It's really clear. It's really responsive to your touch. So again, some of those buttons are gone, but you can use voice commands to get to certain things. All right, so let's take a look at the rear seat, which again, really hasn't changed any much. So maybe slightly different in terms of displays for the climate control for the rear passengers, but nothing too crazy. So as usual, trunk space is pretty good for the 3 Series. There's no compartment underneath where you can get to it as before, so a little bit annoying. But we'll take one more walk around our Brooklyn Gray example of the brand new 2023 M340i xDrive, also available with rear-wheel drive. I think is where most people are going to go for, so especially in California. xDrive not necessarily needed, but the headlights look really, really good. Let me know what you think about the new headlights. And basically a refreshed design for the 3 Series. But that's about it for a relatively quick tour around our brand new 3 Series. We'll see you at the next video.